presumably Mr. Kohler, perhaps other staff. The record might reflect there are about a half dozen staff members present today. Followed then by an opportunity for the applicant to add or subtract from the city's presentation, followed then by an opportunity for public comment. There are not many members of the public present today, and so there won't be any restrictions on the length of public testimony. I don't think I have any other preliminary matters to address, so we'll simply get underway. All those who do testify today will do so under oath. City staff will generally testify from Mr. Kohler's location. The applicant and the public will testify from the dais. And again, everyone who does so will be under oath. So let's begin with Mr. Kohler. Mr. Kohler, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead.
All right, so we have an application in from C&E Developments to subdivide 5.2 acres into 23 lots, constructing 19 single-family residential units and 4 duplexes. This totals 27 units.
Okay, 27, not 23.
And going into the property characteristics, the property is located at 9910 Durant Street Southeast. Directly to the north of the property are the Windstone and Ridgeline apartment complexes, with single family developments on the east, west, and southeast. In the report, I believe I put southwest, but it is actually the southeast. The project location is approximately 1/2 mile from Yelm High School and 3/4 of a mile from Yelm Middle School. And there are sidewalks throughout leading to each of those schools. And there's one residential or single family residence to the southwest. The notice of the application and preliminary SEPA determination of non-significance was mailed to property owners within 300 feet of the site on July 9th, 2024. It was also posted on the site and published in the Nisqually Valley News on July 11th, 2024. Several comments were received in opposition of the project, mostly citing traffic and construction noise as their primary concern. Notice of the date and time of this public hearing was provided as follows. It was mailed to property owners within 300 feet, November 21st, 2024, posted on the City of Yelm website, November 1st, 2024, and published in the Nisqually Valley News on November 21st, 2024. As well as posted on the project site on November 25th, 2024. The State Environmental Policy Act, the City of Yelm SEPA responsible official upgraded the SEPA determination to a mitigated determination of non-significance. And this was posted on the SEPA register on November 18th, 2024. The determination is final and fulfills the city's responsibility for disclosure of potential significant impact. The MDNS identified the following mitigation measures. One, policy 4.5 of the Yelm Comprehensive Plan ensures that any transportation improvements or strategies that are required to mitigate impacts are constructed or financed concurrent with development project. Due to the project's impact to the City of Yelm's transportation system and to mitigate the failing level of service identified at Longmire Street and State Route 510. The project proponent shall pay the City of Yelm alternate traffic fees totaling $150,000. These alternative traffic impact fees shall be assessed in lieu of the standard impact fee and are due at the time of building permit issuance. The second measure is an inadvertent discovery plan must be kept on the project site at all times. In the event of any archaeologic or historic materials are encountered during the project activity, work in the immediate area must stop and follow the actions taken. They must implement reasonable measures to protect the discovery site, including any appropriate stabilization or covering. Take reasonable steps to ensure the confidentiality of the discovery site, and take responsible steps to restrict access of the site discovery. If contamination is observed during construction, sampling of the potential Potentially contaminated media must be conducted if contamination of soil or groundwater is readily visible or revealed by sampling. The Department of Ecology must be notified. Fourth one, during construction, all releases of oils, hydraulic fluids, fuels, and other petroleum products, paints, solvents, and other materials must be contained and removed in a manner that will prevent the discharge to waters and soils of the state. The cleanup of spills should take precedence over other work. These SEPA mitigation measures should be adopted as conditions of the approval. Concurrency and impact fees. The intent of the city's concurrency management program, as required by the Growth Management Act, is based on maintenance of specified levels of service through capacity monitoring, allocation, and reservation procedures. Concurrency describes the situation in which water, sewer, and transportation facilities are available when the impacts of development occur. For water, the city of Yalm has the capacity to service the proposed residential development. The applicant is required to connect to and extend the main along all new proposed roadways within the subdivision. All utility improvements required to serve the project will be specifically identified during civil plan review. This will satisfy the requirement for concurrency with water infrastructure. For sewer, the development or under current forecasting, the city of Yalm has the capacity to service the proposed planned residential community. The development is required to connect to and extend the main so that each proposed lot may connect to the city's sewer. The exact sewer improvements required to serve the development will be identified in civil plan review. This will satisfy the requirement for concurrency with sewer infrastructure. Transportation and access. Concurrency with transportation infrastructure is achieved when a level of service, achieved when the level of service at concurrency intersections will not drop below accepted levels of service due to new trips associated with the proposed land division, unless the planned improvements identified in the 6-year transportation improvement program would maintain levels of service. The applicant prepared a traffic impact analysis for this project to study potential effects on the Yalm transportation network. The TIA is attached. It analyzed the effects of the proposal will have on nearby intersections. The study analyzed the intersections of State Route 510 and Tahoma Boulevard, as well as State Route 510 and Longmire Street Southeast. The forecasted levels of service for all study intersections are presented in the chart in the staff report. As it shows, without the project, it is failing, but also with the project, it fails worse. There's an increase of about a 6-second delay. The city of Yalm consulted with Ryan Shea, Senior Transportation Planner at SCJ Alliance, to assess the applicant's TIA. This third-party review of the study found no issues with the study's methodology. However, due to the development's contribution to unsafe conditions at 510 and Longmire Street, additional traffic mitigation was deemed necessary as condition of the site development. And this is condition 1 of the MDNS. The intersection of Longmire Street at 510 has been identified as a future improvement location in the city's 6-year transportation improvement plan. And it has an estimated project cost of $1,045,000. The current proposed improvement project is to construct a traffic signal at the intersection, including any necessary channelization improvements. The city of Yalm determined the cost of the improvement should not be the responsibility of a single applicant, but instead should be assessed at a proportional rate. The city has already begun requiring development activity to contribute specifically to this location. The Tahoma Ranch development, as documented, has also documented a level of service F result at the Longmire Street 510 intersection and their TIA, and were required to contribute $895,000 towards the construction of the planned traffic signal improvement. Tahoma Ranch is forecasted to generate 179 peak hour trips, which equals $5,000 per peak hour trip. Rainier View Estates is expected to generate 29 peak PM trips and increase the number of turning vehicles to the already failing intersection. As mitigation for impacting an intersection past the point of failure, the city will require that the developer contribute $150,000 towards the total project cost of the improvements at this location to bring it up to an acceptable level of service. The proportional rate equals $5,172 per peak hour trip. It should be noted that while Rainier View Estates development is contributing at a slightly higher per trip rate, it also is benefiting more from the traffic signal improvement, given that it is a primary access point for the development. The city finds that traffic concurrency will be met through the payment of $150,000 in alternative traffic impact fees in lieu of standard traffic impact fees, which are at the current rate $3,449 per peak PM trip. And those are paid at the time of building permit issuance. And for this project, we are proposing that they pay $5,172.41 per trip. The full letter can be referenced in Exhibit 4. For fire protection, concurrency with fire protection is achieved pursuant to 18.16.090C by payment of impact fees at the time of construction. This fee is also subject to change and is collected at the time of building permit issuance. School impact fees, concurrency with school infrastructure is achieved by payment of impact fees at the time of construction. This fee is subject to change and is collected at the time of building permit issuance. Site access and frontage improvements. Section 18.52.080 of the Yale Municipal Code establishes requirements for arterial and collector street access. Any subdivision or combination of subdivisions with 25 or more housing units must provide more than one vehicular access from an arterial or collector street. The preliminary plat depicts 2 access driveways that will make a through street from Longmire Street to Tahoma Boulevard. The project will be an extension of Durant Drive Southeast and will connect the unnamed road that serves Windstone and Ridgeline Apartments. Both streets are constructed to local access residential standards, and the continuation of Durant Street must feature landscape or a streetscape landscape that is consistent with local access residential standards. The Yelm Critical Areas Code, Chapter 18.21 of the Yelm Municipal Code provides protection for wetlands, critical area aquifer recharge areas, frequently flooded areas, and geologically hazardous areas, as well as fish and wildlife habitat. All of Yelm is identified as a critical aquifer recharge area, and an applicant must adhere to the most recent stormwater management manual of Western Washington. Outside of this, there are no other areas or flood hazards identified at the project site. The applicant did submit a gopher survey, which found no effect on prairie habitat and the absence of the Mazama pocket gopher. The R4 zone is intended to provide space for single-family residents in a low-density configuration. The allowed density is 4 units per acre, while allowing 1 duplex per third acre. This meets density as duplexes are allowed at 1 duplex per 1/3 acre, and a planned residential development qualifies for a 15% density bonus. The planned residential development approval criteria is attached to the report as well. The applicant has demonstrated that this project meets the criteria by providing a mix of housing units, a connection to the trail to the west, formerly Durant Street, which is now a trail, and by providing an open space tract that is more than double the city's requirement. The setback requirements for R4 is 15 feet from our front yard setback of 15 feet from local access street, 25 from a collector street, and 35 feet from an arterial street. 5-foot side yard setbacks, and a flanking yard of 15 feet, with a rear yard setback of 25 feet. The preliminary plat satisfies the setback requirements. An adequate street lighting plan is necessary to provide safety to pedestrians, vehicles, and homeowners. The applicant shall submit a lighting plan during civil plan review that meets all of the city's requirements. Residential uses require two spaces per dwelling unit. This is typically achieved with a standard driveway approach. When applying for a building permit, each lot, the applicant will show adequate parking for each single family residence. Let's see. Chapter 13.04 of the Yale Municipal Code and Chapter 4 of the Development Guidelines establish requirements for connecting to the city's water system. Water connections are based on the equivalent residential unit, and those are at 875 cubic feet of water. Water connections are subject to final approval during civil plan review. For sewer, again, that's an equal residential unit of 875 cubic feet per month, and those will be determined at civil plan review. The building design requirements. So all buildings must adhere to allowed materials, colors, and colors listed according to our code. Building design is subject to review after applicant has submitted a building permit application for each proposed residence. New residential developments shall coordinate with the U.S. Postal Service for location of mailboxes, and mailboxes shall be in cluster units within the local access residential street. New residential development shall coordinate with intercity transit to incorporate transit stops. And intercity transit shall determine the type of location of new or upgraded stops. Chapter 18.55 establishes landscaping requirements. Because the project site is adjacent to existing development, a perimeter fence is currently installed to the north and west perimeter of the project site, and roughly half of the south perimeter line. Perimeter landscaping for the remaining southern and west perimeter will be required. Streetscape landscaping is required for the proposed internal access roads. The site plan indicates a single retention pond on the west side of the property near the designated open space. The preliminary landscape plan does show chain link, which is not permitted. But that'll need to be corrected at the time of final landscaping plan submitted during civil plan review. The open space requirement is 5%, and this development is proposing a little over 12%, containing a picnic area with tables, a barbecue, pickleball court, a play structure, and a connection to the paved trail to the west. Areas dedicated to environmental protection or interpretation are suitable for open space. And I would say the site plan submitted meets our requirement. Subdivision name and addressing. Prior to final subdivision approval, the applicant shall make a plat name reservation with the Thurston County Auditor. During civil plan review, the applicant shall request addressing by the City of Yale official. With that, we have our staff recommendation. Section 18.14.050 requires written findings prior to a decision on a preliminary subdivision. The applicant has established that the proposed subdivision adequately provides for public health, safety, and general welfare, and for such open areas, drainage ways, streets, sanitary waste, parks, and recreation, schools, and sidewalks, and that the public use and interest will be served by the subdivision of the property. The Public Services Department recommends the preliminary subdivision be approved. If the hearing examiner agrees that the requirements have been met, the department would recommend the following conditions be included with the preliminary approval. Number one, conditions of the mitigated determination of non-significance associated with this project are hereby referenced and are considered conditions of this approval. If the intersection improvements are made prior to building permit issuance, the standard impact fee will be calculated and applied at building permit issuance. The city will not issue building permits without the intersection improvements or payment for mitigation as written in the SEPA determination. The new internal street is an extension of Durant Drive Southeast and must connect to the internal street that serves Windstone and Ridgeline Apartments. A lighting plan shall be submitted during civil plan review. Any proposed irrigation systems shall incorporate a backflow prevention device and conform with cross connection and backflow control program as defined in the Yale Municipal Code. The final landscape plan shall be submitted during civil plan review and include a detailed irrigation plan. Chain link fence is proposed in the preliminary landscape plan. Chain link fences are not permitted, and this will need to be corrected in civil plan review. Perimeter landscaping is required for the remaining southern and western perimeter. This must be illustrated in a final landscape plan submitted during civil plan review. Plans submitted during civil plan review shall include the proposed location and details for mailbox placement, and these plans must conform to 18.59.080 of the municipal code. The applicant shall, number 8, the applicant shall provide performance assurance device to provide for the maintenance of required landscaping for the subdivision until the homeowners association becomes responsible for landscaping maintenance. The performance assurance device shall be 150% of the anticipated cost to maintain the landscaping for 3 years. Number 9, stormwater facilities shall be located in separate recorded tracts owned and maintained by the homeowners association. The stormwater system shall be held in common by the homeowners association, and the homeowners agreement shall include provisions for the assessment of fees against individual lots for the maintenance and repair of the stormwater facilities. And that concludes my report.
I think, Mr. Kroller, you had miscellaneous questions. There won't necessarily be order to these. As to traffic issues, common comment by members of the public was worries that Durant Drive could be used in a way that's would encourage excessive speed, or what might be done to discourage excessive speed along it or the unnamed drive through the Windstone Apartments. I do note that the design calls for bulb outs at the where the Durant Drive turns and heads north into the Windstone Apartments. Are there any other traffic calming devices that are proposed for the driveway through or drive through the property?
No.
What might these bulb outs do to affect traffic?
The bulb outs typically slow down traffic during their turns. And with this plat, the extension is about 150 feet longer than it currently is. Maybe I didn't say that right. Up here from, I don't know if you can see my mouse here. From this side to the dead end is about 150 feet of an extension. So I'm not a traffic engineer, but it doesn't seem like there would be a way for vehicles to get to an excessive speed in that short amount of time.
In driving through and around, I was trying to guess, would anybody find this a convenient shortcut from whatever A and B might be? Is it likely that parties would utilize this street to gain access to other locations? Is there anything that it would provide an advantage to in terms of using?
I know currently people use Berry Valley Road as a way to get from the current Greensview Estates and the apartment complexes on Longmire Street to use that light at Tahoma Boulevard to turn left. I think with the traffic mitigation and the improvement made at Longmire, the likelihood of that will be less.
Okay. So if I could restate what you just told me, so long as Longmire is not improved, there might be some incentive for people to find a way over to Tahoma Boulevard so that they can get to the traffic intersection and get out to the highway from that way.
Correct.
Okay. What is the likelihood of the Longmire improvements being developed sometime soon?
Very likely. We are currently, at the beginning of the year, we'll be doing a intersection control evaluation for that intersection. And we've already got a commitment from Tahoma Ranch through their project of, I believe it was, I'd have to look back, but roughly 895,000. So with that, the intersection control evaluation, it'll determine, the true cost of that improvement, but we're actively taking steps to correct that.
You don't perhaps have reason to know, but in terms of raising the funding first and then building, or building and then recovering from development, is this project dependent upon those fees having first been gathered through the development at Tahoma Ranch and this project to then get underway, or is the city likely to develop first and then recover the cost? Any sense?
I don't have a good sense for that currently. We'll know a lot more at the beginning of the year.
Okay. Is the current exit out through the Windstone Apartments to Tahoma Boulevard a public road?
Right now, it's a private road. It's constructed to local residential standards, and as soon as the plat here develops, that will become right of way.
Okay, so it's been promised for dedication as part of its development?
In the conditions of their approval for the Windstone Apartments, yes.
Does it have an intended name or an envisioned name, or is it going to be part of Durant Drive? Any idea?
I would anticipate that it would be a continuation of Durant Drive.
Your staff report touches briefly on the requirements for planned residential development approval 18.31.040. Doesn't go through them, but the applicant does in its response. Let's see if I have
Page 58.
Thank you. So does the city deviate from the applicant's position in response to any of these points?
No.
Does it adopt them as the city's position?
Adopt them as,
Does it fully agree with the responses that the applicant
Yes.
has given? Okay.
yeah, thank you.
All right. On the safe walking requirement, you note that as both the high school and the middle school are within a mile of the development that needs to provide assurances of safe walking. And your response is, well, yes, this development and all surrounding developments have a network of sidewalks which are continuous to both schools. My only question about that is making sure that children can get across major thoroughfares. And so Tahoma Boulevard and 510 being the two that sort of serve as potential barriers. Do you know if I did not make a note to observe, I just wrote the note down later. Do both currently have crosswalks that would allow students to be able to safely cross to continue on their paths to those two schools?
I would have to pull up the map real quick, if that's all right.
Sure.
Yes,
Okay,
to the high school, oh, you're not seeing it. Let's see. There we go. So there is a crosswalk in the high school is up
at
there.
Tornado Valley, okay.
Yeah. And there will be with Toma Ranch developing as well. They have a crosswalk down towards Berry Valley Road as well.
And then for middle school students traveling across 510.
Yes, so the middle school. So there's currently a sidewalk along the. I guess the left or the northern side of Longmire.
Okay,
And then, yeah, there's crosswalks with flashers to get to the middle school as well.
okay. Great. Your revised staff report added the condition 6, which proposes perimeter landscaping. Under Yelm's regulations, a fence constitutes perimeter landscaping, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you would not expect something other than a fence, but simply you would just you would complete fences in the areas where they currently don't exist.
Correct.
Other concern expressed by members of the public was, is there a way to minimize or restrict construction noise to certain points? Can construction be brought in or brought out in certain locations so as to minimize its impacts? Does the city have any response to that suggestion?
All construction has to take place during working hours, which I believe are 7 to 7.
And as far as coming in either off of the Windstone Drive or the Durant Drive, any thoughts as to trying to coordinate it to one or the other?
I don't have a preference. If there was a condition of approval to enter through the Windstone side or the Durant side, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Okay. From the city's perspective, and maybe I can ask your engineer, does the city see benefit in coordinating construction traffic to one location?
I'll defer to our city engineer.
Okay. Morning. Let's have you sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. So would there be benefits or burdens from directing the applicant to restrict its construction traffic to a singular ingress egress location?
It's really close, but I prefer to go from the Durant from the south, because the other one is the multifamily and there should be more traffic over there. So I believe that that would be a better solution, but I don't see any specific preference.
Okay. And that's simply to reduce the amount of traffic going through a more heavily populated or greater number of children in the neighborhood. Okay. I asked Mr. Kohler already about the city's response to concerns mentioned by the public about simply can we find ways to discourage anyone from using this as a higher speed alternate route? And in response to those concerns, how would you react or respond to the way this is designed, and whether it encourages or discourages higher speeds?
Our consultant maybe have a better idea, but from my perspective, it's very short street from to an end of the intersection, which they have to have a stop and turn. And from the Windston, it's a shorter stop, and we have the ball which narrow the street, which cause traffic calming. So both kind of help to not have use it as a through traffic. The other thing is that if they want to access from the development, I think that would be better to use that Tomatera, because it's a wider street and you can have access to the light in compared to go to the Langmeyer, which you're gonna have a hard time around 10 basically. So
to the extent you want to encourage people flowing out to Houma Boulevard. Okay. 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 My ink has run out. Do you have another?
There you go.
Too much writing this morning.
No problem.
Thank you. I think that addressed those questions. The project proposes a rather sizable open space area of both stormwater management and recreational uses. Is there a particular reason it has an area of 12 to 15% of the site? What went into its development?
We went, we had a lot of conversations with the applicant, and we wanted, if a planned residential development is being proposed, there essentially needed to be something that sets it apart from any other development. And it ended up working out with I guess I don't really know where I'm going with that, but it seemed to work out where they got the amount of lots that they wanted, and it being close to the trail already.
Durant Street as a right of way. It's a full right of way west of this project, and then it narrows to something less along the apartments, it appears anyway. I take it it's never going to be opened as a street.
Not a street, but a walking trail.
Okay, and so this, right now, it's closed as a walking trail. It's gated at this location. I noticed that gate would then be removed once this development gets underway.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a larger vision for that walkway? It seems to terminate at Longmire. Does it envision going further south at some point?
Not current, there's no current plans for that I'm aware of.
To the extent that the grade school is more than a mile away, you know where the envisioned bus stop for grade school students would be located?
I do not.
I think that answers or addresses all the questions I had prepared for you, Mr. Kohler. So we'll continue on with then the applicant's presentation, unless there's anything else that you would like to add at this time. Anything else?
No.
Okay. And who will be our presenter for the applicant today? Do we have one?
Yes, he's on Zoom here.
Chris,
Yeah.
he's able to just.
And who is that?
This is Chris Merritt. Chris, can you hear us?
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Hold on a second, Chris, we're not hearing you yet.
You could find.
Okay.
Are you able to hear me yet?
Something.
Can you go ahead and try talking again, please?
Yes, can you hear me?
There we go.
Or you're good to
Yes,
go?
I can.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. So good morning, Ms. Mark, hearing examiner. I assume you were able to hear us through that portion.
Yes,
It's now the applicant's opportunity to respond to the city's presentation as well as any questions I pose. Let's first have you sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead.
I don't really have anything to add beyond what city staff had presented, and I agree with their presentation and recommendation for preliminary subdivision approval. With that being said, I could provide some thoughts or input on the traffic calming that was brought up a couple of times, if you'd like.
Please.
I think inherently with these local access streets having the on-street parking, that will, in my opinion, at least me personally, severely deter people from speeding through these streets. I believe the traffic lanes are only 11 feet wide, with having the potential for parked vehicles on both sides. Again, I think that's going to really deter people from speeding through these streets. And the city already brought up the fact that these roads are fairly short, the intersection spacing is fairly close together, and that combined with the bulb out parking, again, I think it's going to be a big deterrent once this project's built out.
Any other issues that you would like to address?
I think the only other thing was the PRD. You mentioned you're asked why the open space tract was as large as it is. I know it's uncommon. You know, I've worked on these projects for almost 30 years, and it seems more often than not you try and get as many lots as you can and go with the bare minimum open space. But I think on this one is a combination of things, one of which is we're already at maximum density and took advantage of density bonus by going with the PRD subdivision. And that southwestern area of the project just lent itself better to a large common open space tract. So it just happened to work out that way, and I think it's a great project as a result of that.
Okay.
Sets itself apart.
The site, the aerial of the location is up on my screen at the moment, and along the west boundary, there is a stand of trees running north and south along the west boundary. Are those within the project, or are those within the city's Durant Street right away? Do you know?
Off the top, honestly, I'm not sure. I believe those may be right on the property line. I don't know if they're reflected on the landscape plan. I can try and look here real quick.
That's where I was going with that. Do you know if they were intended to be incorporated into the open space and kept there?
Yeah, I just pulled up the landscape plan. I don't see them specifically called out. I'm trying to zoom in here on the landscape plan. It's somewhat blurry. So I can't answer that question.
Okay.
I can pull it up if you'd like to reference it.
Yeah, it shows continuous trees along the west boundary, but I'm not, is it clear to staff or Mr. Merritt if those are existing trees or replacement trees?
Those look like replacement trees.
Looks like it to me as well.
Yeah,
Okay,
but that's all I had. I can certainly try and answer any questions you may have for me.
I asked a question as to likely school bus stop location. Do you have an idea what the school district may require or seek?
I do not, and that's something that we could typically coordinate with the school district during the civil plan review phase. I think the staff report mentioned transit and also coordination with postal service on the mailbox cluster. So the school bus stop would be another one of those coordination items.
Okay. I don't have any other questions for you, Mr. Merritt. Thank you. And I assume that would be the totality of the applicant's presentation. There isn't anyone else you would like to testify, correct?
I don't know if the representative from C&E Developments, the applicant's physically present.
There is no one present, no.
Okay, so that would be it.
Okay, thank you. We've heard from city staff in its presentation. We've heard from the applicant through Mr. Merritt. This now is the opportunity for members of the public to testify. Do we have that available remotely as well today, or is it just in person?
Just in person.
Okay. And so, ma'am, would you like to be heard today? Please. And your name?
Mary Lou Clemens,
How do I spell your last name?
CLEMENS.
Let's have you first sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead.
My question has to do with Durant Street. I understand it's going to be a walking path. I'm wondering though, as we talk about construction vehicles going in and out, because that was a open road at one time and it ends, of course, by the
Along my.
right, but it also ends at the
Oh,
other
at the
end,
apartments.
the apartments, but it certainly would give access to the construction site. And I'm wondering if there's any plans for that, which I would hope not, but
I did not read into the staff report any intention to open the Durant Street right of way at the south, where it intersects with Longmire to allow construction traffic in that way.
No, the road is very narrow
Right.
through there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not to road width, so it's just a path width this time, correct?
Essentially,
it's been used as a street.
Oh,
it
okay.
has been, yeah.
It has
that's
been.
correct.
Interesting. I did not know that.
So because it went all the way through,
Okay,
but so that was my question. If
Okay.
there was anything that was in the plans or
and I think that's a clear no to that. So, okay. Anything else?
no, that's it.
All right.
My concern.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Kohler, you have the right to respond to either the applicant's presentation or the public comments. Do you wish to respond to either one?
Just one quick response. We would like to see if we can keep those trees along the right of way of the former Durant Street.
Okay. Do I still have Mr. Merritt on the line?
Yes,
You've heard the city's suggestion there. Does the applicant have any response?
I would just, I'm not sure of the condition of those trees, so I think maybe if there's a way to condition it, that it's a coordination thing between the city and the landscape designer. And I think we need to verify the exact locations of those two. There's a chance that they may be located within the unopened right of way and not on this parcel, so. I think need to be a couple of coordination items and to further look into that before we commit.
Any response, Mr. Merritt's response?
I think that's a good,
Okay.
good plan.
All right. Well, when possible, I do like to see tree preservation, especially in an area that's intended for open space. And in fact, in a lot of cities that would have been mandated under their tree preservation standards. So sure, I think appreciate that being suggested by the city and the applicant's willingness to adapt to it. Conditionally recognizing that again, that we don't know that these are site trees and that we don't know that they are healthy site trees with all that, and that they will not interfere with necessary stormwater management or other requirements of that open space. With all of those, as well as access to the trail, that they don't get in the way of access to the trail. So 3 or 4 or 5 conditions, but otherwise a good idea. I'm going to go ahead and approve the planned residential development, subject to both the revised conditions presented by the city earlier today, together with one additional condition proposing the preservation of those trees. If possible, I'll word that. I'll come up with some wording as I prepare my decision. Otherwise, I'm going to approve as recommended. It will take some time to do that. I'm guessing a week to 10 days for my decision to come out. So I just want to alert people that it'll be a few days before my findings and conclusions and final decision are available to the city. But just so that in advance, the applicant is aware that it's going to be approved for development. And again, I'll get to those to that decision as quickly as I can, because I do understand that my decision, its presentation delays all other needed permits. So I'll try not to delay this process any longer than I need to. Are there any last questions either by city staff or by Mr. Merritt regarding the nature of today's decision?
Not from staff.
And Mr. Merritt, anything?
The only thing I wanted to mention, and it may be too late, but construction access was brought up.
Yes.
And based on my experience with these, I think it'd be beneficial to leave access from both Longmire and Tahoma.
I thank you. I would, that's what I was going to do. I wasn't going to restrict it. I wasn't hearing a strong enough reason to actually go ahead and restrict. And in fact, it was sort of counterintuitive. The suggestions were that if I did restrict, I'd restrict it away from the Whinstone side, which I think is contrary to what the commenters expected from what I might do. And so rather than do something that's actually directly opposite what had been hoped to be done, I'm going to simply leave it untouched for the time being, and we'll let circumstances dictate how that's best handled, with the idea that maybe by having both, the traffic will sort of flow to each to certain extents, and we'll have less of an issue that way. That might be the best of all possibilities, because I sure hate to anger a neighborhood by having surprised them with sending all the traffic their way when they didn't see that coming. So I'm going to leave it alone, and we'll just let the circumstances more decide where that traffic goes. So, okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I want to thank everyone for their participation today, and we're adjourned.